me an example so I can just look at this and, kind of explain and utilize this. But
Oh, you missed some, Justin.
all right, so listen. All right, lines. This is only about lines right now in Illustrator. We know Illustrator is one of the best at doing graphic line work. You need to be able to manipulate that, and there are a few things I'm going to show you. First and foremost, where you would go to actually change all those are the stroke menu. So it's here. You can actually detach this and actually make it like its own. But under here, under stroke, you can change the actual stroke weight, the color, transparency, but then you also want to be able to change the actual line type. Hold on. Gotta make sure of this. Yeah, every time I open up a new one, it's like functioning different.
Right there on top.
What you talking about right there on top?
Like,
Top room.
yeah.
No, I want to bring up my line types.
Because the top was a thing, it's just a bar, not on the side.
Top.
Are you talking about pulling this out? No. Pulling it out.
No,
The top of your
it
screen.
says basic. and
Yes, no, okay, yes, it exists right there. Yes, that's true. You're like, it's at the top right there. No, there's typically a way that I can actually give this all my line type. I need to go find that menu because it's not showing up right now.
you gotta go to
It might be because it's CS6.
That's probably what it is.
Oh, Lord. I have to go back and stuff though. Pattern options, I gotta figure out which one it is. One
Some
second.
people skip that.
No, it's not that. All right, wait, one second.
Yeah. That wasn't
What was that?
Oh, where'd my banana phone go?
I gotta find. Okay, y'all gotta give me a minute. I gotta find this because I find the CS6. Yeah. Tell me where.
No, get out of the
Just get out.
Yeah, so the actual word stroke, yellow, click the word, on there, click the word stroke.
Click
Not
stroke.
on here.
Oh, there it is. That's it right there.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted. All right. Thank you, Keisha. Everybody give Keisha a round of applause. Right there. So, all right, just so y'all know, it is this little arrow right here that you can just toggle between. That's why it knows already. All right. That's important to note. So this is completely condensed view, completely expanded, and semi-expanded view. All right. So, but everything you need to do is under the stroke tab as far as line widths. You can access it over here like y'all were telling me. That is a way, but this is your one-stop shop right here. You can only access some of the aspects of it right here at the top, okay? So if I select a line, I know what my stroke weight is. So I want to, first off, the cool thing about Illustrator is that you can select everything by, if I want to select same, I can select everything that is the same stroke weight. So everything that is a 2-point stroke weight, I have it all selected now. So I can go in and say, all right, so I don't even necessarily have to layer it out. I can go in and say, all right, I want to change everything that's 2 to a 6. That's not necessarily ideal, but I'm going to make it really thick because I want to make a point to y'all. So you see how the bigger I make it, you see these little breaks that happen right there? That means that they're not polylines. They are individual lines. Individual line segments, which sometimes can get annoying for, giving what looks like resolved edges. So you really want to use the pen tool to clean that up if you can, if and when you can. But even still, if I have this selected, this is the weight type, and then I have my cap type, and then my corner type, and then how I align my stroke. And then I can do dashed lines to actually make it, all different types of things. I can have arrows on the ends. You're not doing arrows here, but that can become very important when you need to do diagramming, which is also helpful. And then you can actually have like profiles. This actually gets a lot more complicated. Illustrator isn't as good at this until you get a plugin that helps with a lot of this stuff. So unless you get that, for now you can leave it alone. All right, anyway, let me make this non-dash real quick. And I'm just gonna pull out a line right here. Make a line going straight across. Simple line, just so we can see it. Everybody can see that clear enough? Now, my cap in is saying it's a butt cap. A butt cap means it stops right at the end of that dash. Let me zoom a little bit more just so we can see it. Okay? This point right here marks where the edge of my line is based on where I've drawn it, the actual vector. If I give it an actual round cap, it'll round it on the edge. Now, rounded caps for architectural drawings are never good. It looks a little sloppy. It looks like a kid did it a little bit. But generally what you want are your actual projecting caps. So if you have two lines that you want to overlap and look like they've been resolved and joined together, the two separate lines, that really helps with that. Now the problem is with these angles, so I'm going to select all of these again. I'm going to select the same. I can right click. No, I'm going to go up here, select same stroke weight, and I'm going to give all of these projecting caps. Now you see how it helps to some extent, but because they're all at different angles, they still look like they're overlapping in a weird, funny way. You guys see that? So that doesn't look the best either, right? Now I'm making them extra thick so I can emphasize the problem. What helps with that is making them actual polylines, which are joint lines, not individual. The way you do that is using the pen tool. So now with the pen tool, I can do multiple lines like this, right? Right, I'm gonna delete this other piece. I don't need that anymore. Now with this, if I go to that same stroke menu, this cap, changing this cap doesn't affect that at all, except for the beginning and end, because I didn't close it off. But for the most part, changing that doesn't affect any of these corners, because it's not a cap, it is a corner. A cap is the end of a line. Corner is where the same line changes direction, okay? All right, so I can do the corner pretty much with the same logic, but with how two different lines connect. So let me show you that one. I'm gonna move this down here, and then I'm gonna bring it up again so we can get out of the way a little bit. So now I can do an actual round join. You see how this got rounded? I can do an actual miter join. You see how it's mitered? Or I can do an actual projecting miter join corner. And that is actually your cleanest corner when you're drawing as well, right? So remember that. So when you come in and you work on your lines, for the most part, rule of thumb, try and make them polylines, okay? And then secondly, what you want to do is to make them either projecting cap or miter joints. The other thing is aligning the stroke. You might notice that the blue line, you see this blue line internal to the overall line? That is telling me what the original vector is that I drew. And everything else is just how thick I made it and and other qualities I give it. I can actually align the stroke to be at different parts of this line. I can align it to push everything to the exterior, push everything to the interior, but right now it's actually aligned to the central part, which is typically the way you should do it. All right, any questions about that?
I have a question I prefer to say about that. Is it possible to select same and then transform your individual lines into polylines?
No.
No.
So you can group, but you can't actually have all, not in Illustrator. Illustrator, like you can do it like in AutoCAD or Rhino or something else, you can say join, but you can't do that in Illustrator. You can use them as references and draw your own lines.
Is that just the way that they code it?
Right, yeah, there's no, that's been the issue, yes.
So you're saying is the only way to fix that issue on the main scale is to literally go back over it with a pen?
And the pen tool and redraw. Okay? Or when you originally create these, I don't know how you guys are transitioning these into Illustrator, but before you bring it into Illustrator, if it's in any type of vector software, you can join it before you bring it into Illustrator. That should not be a problem. That's what I would recommend. Okay? How did you, Justin, how did you bring this into Illustrator?
Through SketchUp,
As a what, DWG?
No, as a PDF.
As a PDF?
Yeah, export 2D graphic into Adobe PDF, and it transferred all lines perfectly.
All right, there's a way that you can go from SketchUp to Illustrator to a DWG format, join it together, and then bring it back into Illustrator.
That sounds more complicated than just what you said.
It is. I'm not gonna lie to you. That part of it is, because I'm gonna tell you, a lot of times SketchUp isn't your best software for going directly into something else. You can't take and export DWGs like you can with a Make 2D and Rhino or something. So what you have to do is actually export it as a PDF, bring it into Illustrator, save it out of Illustrator as a DWG. You can save these vectors as DWG.
You can save it out of SketchUp as a DWG.
Yes, you can save it out of SketchUp as a DWG, but will it keep the same view?
Yeah.
It will? Okay, if it will keep that same view, then do it as a DWG. DWG, go into a different software other than Illustrator, join all your lines, and then bring them in, okay? I didn't even know SketchUp can do DWG for views now.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That is really good. All right,
So what program can you
all
use?
right, maybe I need to stop hating on SketchUp so much.
Right. It's nothing wrong.
No, I'm gonna keep hating on it. So I'm gonna select all this, same stroke weight. I'm gonna make it back to 2 so it doesn't look as crazy anymore. But the goal is to make it look as clean as possible. You can select and play with line weights to actually emphasize whatever term it is that you want to explore or communicate. So that's pretty straightforward. If there are no other questions, we can move on, but are there any other questions? Does that make sense?
Yep.
I mean, it's just line weights, right? Don't be afraid to use dashed lines if you feel like that, might help. There's nothing wrong with, taking all of these. Dashed lines do help at times, but you can also, maybe I should show you how you play with the dash lines as well. Oh, this breaks at every intersection. Maybe that's no way to
Because
do
you
that.
drew individual lines.
Yes, this came in loose.
So can you change the individual line to like polyline?
So that's what was asked before, not in Illustrator. That's what we're talking about. You would go into a different software and do that. All right. You know what? I'm not even gonna do it. It's not working. Y'all get it. It's not working. Maybe I got some selected. I'm just doing what I got selected. So if I wanted to make this like a dash line, something like that, to emphasize this piece is something different, or I could even start to make it so I can see through some things if needed, just to kind of further, communicate something important. But you see, because it's all broken, even the dashes aren't consistent. Now the way you can actually change dashes is right now, if I just put 12, I have 12 right here, it's gonna assume that my dash is a 12 point by 12 point dash gap, all the way through, right? If I go 12, but if I go 12-6, it's like it'll smartly interpret the rest of the pattern. Because I only place a 12 there, it's gonna interpret 12, 12, 12. If I go 12-6, it's gonna interpret 12-6, 12-6, 12-6, okay? You see that? That one's now 12-6, 12-6. If I were to then say 12-6, 3, it's gonna keep going 12-6, 3, 12-6, 3. You get that? It's gonna keep following the pattern that I set up. So there's no need to write out 12-6, 12-6, 12-6, 12-6. Y'all get what I'm saying? That's a waste of time. All right, and it gives you how many places, 6 different places in that. And then the other thing to note is the way it goes around edges are also really important. You can have it so that the pattern will continue just as evenly, and it doesn't matter where it lines up on the edge, it's gonna continue to turn. Or you can make it so that the edges are always defined with a dash and not a gap. And then it'll slightly adjust the pattern to do that. You guys understand what I mean? All right. That's another important thing for defining the boundaries. All right, that's all I can think about. We're not doing arrowheads, so we're good on that. Hopefully you're not doing arrows. And it's only black and white, so we need to get the colors. All right, next thing.
Collage.
Collaging. All right. How many of you use like layers and masks in Photoshop? How many don't know what I'm talking about? How many of you actually save your selections? How many of you save your selections in Photoshop? All right. That'll help you work faster.
What do you mean by selection?
You can create a selection of like a boundary. You can save that out, so when you're working, you can always reload that same boundary. So you can, that helps you with collaging, so you can select the area that you want to cut and paste into, whatever, or mask around. But that's pretty much all it is to collaging. Now, I tell people this in Photoshop. I can tell you how to do a lot of the things technically, but especially in Photoshop, you need to have some artistic intent to really maximize off. You have to know what you want to get